24 Days of Wonder. 24 stories from my 19 years at Santaland on 34th Street. Story number 3. Operation Happy Children. Operation Happy Children is a long-standing event at Santaland. The houses that day are filled with toys, dolls, and sports equipment, and hundreds of disadvantaged children come to visit Santa and pick out gifts. On that day, the crew really does get to be Santa Claus. It used to take place a few weeks prior to Christmas, and by the time I left the store, they had moved it to as early in the shopping season as possible. When I first started, the event was produced in cooperation with a lot of service groups, Knight of Columbus, Kiwanis, Key Clubs, Elks Club, etc. The groups raised money to buy the toys, and their members assisted on the day of the event. The children were bused to the store and received a hot breakfast while being entertained by costume characters and a ragtime band playing Christmas songs. They were then taken to see the seasonal puppet show, after which they would have a visit with Santa and receive their toys. When I first started, over 1,000 kids would come through Santaland as part of what we called Op Happy. They would start an hour before the store opened, and the last group would come through just after noon. The year before I started, there was one little boy who, after his visit with Santa, sat on the floor in the register area and cried. The Santaland manager asked him what was wrong. The boy told the manager they didn't want toys from Santa. He wanted to get a pair of gloves for his little sister because her hands were cold when she went outside. The manager ran down to the kid's clothing floor and bought 2 pairs of gloves with his own money. 1 pair for the sister and 1 pair for the little boy. During Op Happy, everyone was Santa. The service organization's people were wonderful and very helpful, but sometimes their need to indicate how strongly they were involved with the program led to certain issues. For example, they would tell the children the plan for the day at breakfast, mentioning that they would see Santa and get to choose 2 toys. These kids didn't have many toys, if any, and knowing they were going to get toys somewhat stifled their interest in Santa when they arrived at the house. It was all about the toys. This became very apparent to me during my first year in the red suit for Op Happy. It was obvious to my 2 attending elves as well. By the time the 3rd group of children entered, the elves were coaxing the kids to stand as a group in front of me for a greeting before they were permitted to begin choosing toys. Group after group ignored my greeting and seemingly could not wait for me to shut up. The joy that I anticipated for the day was just not happening. Near the end of the morning, a particularly large group was ushered in the house, and the same routine ensued. But this time, as the crowd rushed away from me to the toys, I looked down and saw this beautiful little girl staring at me with her mouth wide open. She was a little girl who could not have been more than 5 years old, and she was perhaps 3 feet tall. But her eyes were as big as they could possibly be. She was in total awe of being in the same room with Santa Claus. I smiled and held out my hand to her as she took it, and I asked her if she wanted to sit in my lap and tell me what she wanted for Christmas, but she shook her head. She was perfectly content to stand there and hold my hand and look at me. I asked her if she wanted to get 2 toys. She nodded that she did, but she didn't move a muscle. I told her that it was okay, that she could go pick out 2 toys for herself. She nodded again, but still didn't move. She was not going to take her eyes off of Santa for a second. So I motioned to my elf, who called herself Marzipan, to come on over. I then asked this angel of a little girl if she saw anything in the room she wanted, and if so, just to point it out to me. She pointed to the 3-foot teddy bear that was next to my seat and was part of the decor of the house. I looked at Marzipan and asked if we had a teddy bear the little girl's size. Marzipan flew to the far corner of the room and came back with an adorable teddy bear. I handed it to the little girl. I took one look and knew that this was the first teddy bear, maybe the first stuffed animal, that she had ever had. I have never seen a child hug a teddy bear so tightly, and a huge smile filled her face. It was love at first sight. I asked her what else she would like. A puzzled look came over her face. What could be as wonderful as this teddy? I thought for a moment, and then I asked her if she liked baby dolls. Her smile grew even larger as she vigorously nodded her head. "Marzipan, do we have a baby doll for my friend here?" "Coming right up, Santa." Marzipan brought over the baby doll. The little girl was at first reluctant to let go of my hand, but when she did, she grabbed the doll and hugged it as tightly as a teddy. I thanked her for visiting me and reached out and gave her a hug. The rest of the kids in her group had finished their toy selection and were being ushered out. The service volunteers were giving the kids shopping bags and telling them to put their toys in them. One volunteer came over to my little friend and started leading her out. As she did, she told her to put the teddy bear and her doll in the bag. The little girl turned, gave me a panicked look, and grabbed her dolls even tighter. I looked at the volunteer and said, "I don't think she needs that bag. I can guarantee she isn't going to lose her new toys or drop them by mistake." The volunteer looked at the girl for a second, smiled, and replied, "You know what, Santa? I don't think she's going to drop them either. Okay, no bag." She placed her hand on the girl's shoulder and led her out of the house. I truly believe that this was the little girl's first teddy bear. And as she walked out, her head turned over her shoulder so that she could look at Santa for as long as possible. When she got to the door, she stopped in her tracks. She turned fully towards me and said the only thing she had uttered during the entire visit. "I love you, Santa. Merry Christmas." Merry Christmas, indeed.